nits, you can blame the umps, you can shake your fist at the clouds, and you're just gonna keep missing the point. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Mets 3, Pirates 2. Let me count the ways that anyone could point a finger after this one. You could point it at O'Neal Cruz for dropping that relay in the 8th inning that handed the Mets the game's first run. You could point the finger at Michael A. Taylor for whatever in hell anybody was thinking with trying 3 consecutive bunts when he can't bunt to save his life. You can point, as I'm sure almost everybody's doing right about now, at Aroldis Chapman, because Nick Gonzalez gives the Pirates this big dramatic hit, a real rarity at that, to take the lead heading into the 9th, and Chapman just gives it all right back with a bunch of walks and wild pitches and whatever else. And I'll bet that if you took a survey, not just of the people who were inside PNC Park yesterday, but of anybody who watched or listened to this game, it wouldn't pop up on their top 25 potential reasons to complain that the Pirates mustered only 6 whole singles in the game and struck out, repeat after me, 10 times. It's almost as if nobody, not just the Pirates management, which is doing it willfully, it's almost as if nobody wants to deal with reality, and everybody would just prefer to allow themselves to live in some fantasy land where 14-2 was a real thing. 14-2 with 7 home runs, 2 grand slams, 2 home runs each from Brian Reynolds and Rowdy Tellez. We don't care if they're off-position players. We don't care if it's a blowout. Some people I saw online comparing this to the blackout, which was a playoff game, which, by the way, was a great game in addition to being a playoff game. This was a Friday night blowout in which the other team just said whatever. It feels like there's such an air of desperation to just not even talk about the elephant in the room, to not have to deal with it. People would rather talk about how many runners were left in scoring position when it's not just advanced analytics, it's basic analytics that tells you that stuff never matters. It feels like it in the moment, but the way to overcome not having RBIs result from those situations is to just have more people reach base. More hits, more walks equals more runs. Safest formula in the sport. This team doesn't do that. It's not because it isn't clutch. It's because it can't hit. This team is now 5 games below 500. That's not because the starting pitchers are getting banged up. It's not because the relievers have been, banged up themselves a little bit. It's because they can't hit. The team's 42-47 right now, and it's not because they'll occasionally flash a lack of fundamentals. It's because they can't hit. And the reason that everyone from Ben Cherington to Derek Shelton to the team-employed TV and radio announcers will all stress everything else is because by talking about the actual problem, it applies further pressure on Cherington specifically to do something about it, and it couldn't be clearer that he has no interest in doing anything of the kind. It's not like he doesn't know. It's not like they don't know. The problem is that they can't hit. Listen to this number. They've played 89 games, right? That's the 42-47. Out of those 89 games, 33 of those have seen the Pirates score 2 or fewer runs. That is 37% of all their games. That's astonishing. I'll give you the basics. They rank in the bottom 8 across all of Major League Baseball. In batting average, 230. OPS, 665. Hits, 693. Hits per game, 7.81. Runs, 362. Runs per game, 4.09. They have now struck out 837 times. That's fifth most in the majors. And again, on this day, all they got going was 6 singles. And by the way, one of those was very clutch by Gonzalez. The problem was there weren't enough hits for enough bases. And if Chapman hadn't blown the save, all everybody would be talking about was, wow, that was really great. The offense really came through there. They battled. And it would further obfuscate the actual problem. And by the way, further buy time for Cherington to do nothing while the team just slips away and he gets his wish, and I do believe it's his wish, for this team to just kind of fade off. Maybe you can blame it on Jared Jones getting hurt. Now Bailey Falter is hurt. David Bednar is hurt. If Bednar had been healthy, they would have won the game. And he'd have somewhere else to point that finger, the same one I'm talking about, other than the bats, because he doesn't want to deal with the bats. He doesn't want to trade pitching for hitting. He most definitely doesn't want to fire Andy Haynes. He just wants for this all to go away, and let's talk again in 2025, which has been, I believe, the plan all along. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at Northshore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. Northshore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Today's J1Q comes from Sean, who says, DK, is it too early to begin discussion about Brian Reynolds being considered a legitimate National League MVP candidate? He's third in the National League among outfielders in OPS. He plays above average defense, and most important, where would the Pirates be without him? If this team stays in contention until the end and even manages to sneak into the playoffs, he's got to be in consideration, doesn't he? Sean, and I say this respectful of Reynolds and the 2 months that he's had here, no, he does not. That doesn't mean he can't stay on this kind of a heater for, another 2-3 months and change the existing scenario that's there. But the existing scenario doesn't have him, I don't think, anywhere near that discussion. When you're looking at stats, you mentioned, his rank among NL outfielders. Well, that's irrelevant. He's a player. When you're talking about MVP, you're talking about most valuable player, not most valuable outfielder. And just a casual glance around the league, Shohei Ohtani's hitting .314 with 28 homers and 65 RBIs. Bryce Harper is at .303 with 20 homers and 58 RBIs. Marcell Ozuna in Atlanta, who we just saw, is at .295, but with 23 homers and 72 RBIs, leading the league in the latter category. These are the numbers that make you go. These are the numbers that get you the kind of votes that are needed. And when you're talking about OPS, which is probably the one that most writers, and this one is a Baseball Writers Association of America ballot, will look at first. You're going to look at OPS. And Reynolds is 12th in OPS and 15th in WAR. And I'm not saying these things as if they are criticisms. It's wonderful to have somebody on your team 12th in OPS, especially when the rest of your offense is pretty much DOA from the day the season starts. And as for how much he means to the team, this isn't hockey. The NHL is the only league in which the MVP is awarded based on the criteria, and it is specifically phrased this way: the player adjudged to be most valuable to his team. That doesn't exist in Major League Baseball nor in the NFL. The writers are given guidelines on MVP. I've done that voting myself, and it just says to take the best player. It doesn't even say, by the way, to take the best position player, though it's always been seen that way because the Cy Young Award exists as well. So, no. But to say this gently back, people get so excited. It feels like over the past 2-3 weeks when this team wins that this kind of subject can come up. And after the game, Friday night, I assure you, if you just surveyed people walking across the bridge back toward downtown and said, do you think Brian Reynolds should be in the MVP conversation? You'd get 9 out of 10 of them going, yeah. This team is flawed. This team is not going to get unflawed without help. That 14-run outburst the other night with Paul Skeens pitching in a packed crowd and running out of fireworks and all that other stuff, that's fun for a night. But the 3 games around it, they scored 2 runs in each. That's who they are, most unfortunately. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow from Milwaukee. I'll be flying up to cover the series with the first place Brewers.